Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're tackling a fascinating and honestly highly misunderstood topic. We are decoding what jail overcrowding actually means. Because let's be real, when we hear jail overcrowding, the standard narrative usually paints a picture of a purely physical space issue, right? Like too many people, just not enough cells. But if you follow the space closely, you know the reality is, well, it's far more bureaucratic, it's operational, and it's deeply, deeply complex. So for this explainer, we're going to use the state of Massachusetts as our case study. We're taking a completely impartial, systems-level look at this issue, moving way past the simplistic talking points and diving directly into the data to see how modern correctional facilities actually function when they are under intense pressure.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with Part 1, More Than Space. Then Part 2, The Massachusetts Approach. Part 3 is Anatomy of a Crowd. Part 4, The Ripple Effect. And we'll wrap things up with Part 5, Nuance over Numbers. Let's get right to it.
Section 1, More Than Space. We're going to unpack the overcrowding myth.
So what does a crowded jail actually look like? We so often reduce this to a simple, almost elementary math problem, right? Just inmates versus beds. But here's the thing. A facility can actually be at an absolute breaking point even if it is operating well below its official design capacity. Let's look at exactly why that happens.
Here's the actual working definition drawn directly from correctional reporting. Overcrowding happens when the number of people housed in a facility exceeds the physical space, yes, but also the staffing or the operational design the facility was built to handle. And that is a massive distinction. Think about it like a giant puzzle. If you have 50 empty beds, but you literally lack the guards to safely monitor that specific housing unit, those beds are entirely useless. They might as well not exist. That facility is operationally overcrowded, even if the building itself is technically only half full. And this shows up fast in real life. You'll see repurposed program spaces or temporary beds shoved into common areas.
Moving on to Section 2, The Massachusetts Approach. Oversight, Tracking, and Independence.
You know, the public generally expects a single, clean headline number, right? Something that just neatly says, yes, the state is overcrowded, or no, it isn't. But the reality is incredibly decentralized. Massachusetts has a very distinctive jail structure. It relies on 14 independently elected county sheriffs. And each of these sheriffs is managing highly localized specific pressures. You simply cannot generate an accurate, single, statewide label when you've got 14 totally independent systems running simultaneously, all with their own distinct challenges.
And because of that independence, Massachusetts state law actually requires these sheriffs to publicly report some very detailed metrics. Through the Massachusetts Sheriff's Association, they post operational capacity reports and county population reports directly to mass.gov. These reports track design capacity, specific unit functions, and average inmate counts. Honestly, these publicly available documents are the absolute best current evidence we have of actual jail pressure. Why? Because they force us to stop generalizing and look at the gritty details, facility by facility.
All right, Section 3, Anatomy of a Crowd, the 5 key drivers.
So the crucial point is, what exactly causes these localized pressures? Well, a facility's usable capacity gets squeezed by a combination of 5 distinct factors. We've got pretrial detention delays, rapid short-term population swings, strict facility design limits, special housing needs, and of course, staffing constraints. It's a completely interlocking system. When pressure builds up in one area, it causes immediate, tangible operational failures in another.
Let's break down exactly how 3 of these drivers practically impact day-to-day operations. Take pretrial detention, for example. When cases move slowly through the court system or bail conditions just aren't met, people simply stay in custody longer. That creates a massive bottleneck. Next, facility design. A lot of these older buildings have incredibly rigid layouts. They just lack the flexible housing needed to separate different populations safely. And finally, staffing constraints. I literally cannot emphasize this enough. Empty physical beds cannot be safely used without guards. If you don't have the staff to oversee basic movement, intake, classification, and medical screening, physical capacity means absolutely nothing. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about, using real data from Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Strikingly, only 50% of total beds are actually meant for the general population. The rest? Well, 20% are strictly for medical or mental health needs, 15% are reserved for disciplinary or protective custody, and another 15% are completely offline for renovation. This proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that a simple bed count does not equal usable capacity. If a new inmate arrives, you can't just drop them into an active construction zone or a highly specialized mental health unit just because a bed technically exists on a spreadsheet.
Which brings us to Section 4, the ripple effect.
Daily operational impacts.
Now that we understand the anatomy of the crowd, what does this actually mean for the folks living and working inside these facilities every single day? It creates a severe chain reaction. Step 1, the jail gets operationally crowded. Then, Step 2, as staff are forced to manage more conflicts in much tighter spaces, out-of-cell time is significantly reduced. Administrators just have to lock people in longer to maintain basic safety, which inevitably leads to Step 3. Critical reentry programs completely stall out.
And we need to be crystal clear about what programs we're talking about here. These aren't just, fun extracurriculars. Massachusetts sheriffs rely heavily on substance use treatment, vocational training, and reentry services to actually stop recidivism. When a program space has to become a makeshift dormitory, or there simply aren't enough guards to even escort inmates down the hall to a classroom, the very tools designed to keep people from coming back to jail are sacrificed.
Section 5. Nuance over numbers. Why transparency matters now.
Make no mistake, this is a live, ongoing issue right now. Back in 2025, the state auditor reviewed the sheriff's reporting and noted some issues with standardization and completeness. Actually, scratch that. It's a great reminder that public data must always be read carefully and with full context. Rolling into early 2026, the county population reports continued to show ongoing, highly localized pressures. Some facilities had razor-thin margins, while others had entire units completely offline. And as of today, May 25, 2026, jail population management, right alongside sheriff's budgets, remains an incredibly active, heavily scrutinized policy issue.
Now, what's really interesting about this official finding is that it serves as a final, crucial warning against simple answers. The source analysis states it clearly. The best current evidence comes from official capacity and population reports. Crowding pressure can be localized and operationally complex. We absolutely have to rely on official, localized data rather than sweeping generalizations. Transparency is an incredibly useful tool, but it requires us, as informed citizens, to accept a detailed and, sometimes messy and complicated picture.
So I want to wrap up this explainer with a provocative question for you to really think about. Are you looking closely enough at the nuanced operational realities of your local institutions? The next time you see a headline screaming about jail crowding, I challenge you to look past that simple yes or no label. Ask yourself about the staffing. Ask about the out-of-cell time. Look for that localized pressure. Basically, demand the complex picture. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.